Just how good is Michigan State when it matters most? Well, perhaps this stat is more telling than any other. The Spartans 6-1 in their last 7 against top 10 opposition. Even more impressive, 4 of those wins have come away from East Lansing, including Saturday's 17-14 victory in Columbus. Thrilled to be joined now on Beyond by the head coach of the Spartans, Mark Dantonio. Mark, I assume you've had time at this point to watch a little bit and enjoy some of that game film. What's the most impressive thing your team did on Saturday?
Well, I thought, first of all, we just came out and played hard. I watched it one time. I hadn't seen the TV copy or anything like that. But I thought what we did was collectively as a group, we played with confidence, and we just kept playing. We played for the next play.
Mark, your defense had been criticized. Your running game had been by committee. Your kicker hadn't had the year that he or I'm sure you expected, yet all those things came together on one afternoon. How much did that game define this team?
Well, we knew going in that Ohio State was a great football team, that we were going to have to play our best football game of the season. And we were sort of poised to be able to do that. But our players had to get it done. Our coaches did an outstanding job calling the game and creating packages for the other 2 quarterbacks, if Connor was not able to play, which that was the case. So it all sort of came to fruition.
How far ahead of time, Mark, did you and the staff know that Connor simply wasn't going to be able to go, and how much of a heads up did Damian, Tot, and Tyler have to know they were going to carry the load?
Well, we had to practice all week long and have a package for those guys. But we really didn't know until Saturday right at game time that it just didn't really just have that extra something to put on the ball. So we went in the other direction, but pretty much like Tyler had said, 10:30 at night, I called both those guys up to my room on Friday night and said, okay, this is how we're going to handle this. It's not a for sure thing, but at this point in time, this is how we'll handle it. So that's when I think it even became more real for them. And so, we went with that. Both those guys played with great confidence and poise, made plays in the game. It helped that they both played, I think, the week before against Maryland. And so, again, it's just another example of, you have an opportunity to play and you get game experience, you get better and better, and it provides an opportunity for our football team to grow and get stronger.
So I know you have to wait on Connor's status, and I know as a program you don't talk about injuries, so let me ask it this way. Will you have one or more than one offensive game plan in practice this week?
We're always going to have a couple just to keep it nice and moving forward. But, basically our quarterbacks all operate in the same system. They can run the same system. I think, and I said in my press conference today, I think it was more about the weather and what we were going to have to do than anything else. The wind was blowing, it was raining. There were a lot of things going on out there, from a weather perspective, and then the nature of the game, because our defense was playing so well. We wanted to be able to keep the football, obviously, and then also, we were able to run the ball effectively. So all those things sort of played into it. It gave us short yardage situations at times throughout the game, and we converted on those type of things. We'd be in a 3rd and 8, and then we'd have a penalty, and then all of a sudden it's 3rd and 3. Those are critical things that happened in the game that allowed us to become a little bit more effective, I think, as the game progressed. So all those things enter into it, but I think our coaches just did a great job. Dave Warner did a great job, along with Jim Bowman and the rest of the offensive staff, to call the game from that perspective.
Mark, reach higher has been your team's mantra all year long. How do you and the coaching staff make sure these guys can elevate for one more week in the regular season after such an emotional win, and when you consider the fact that there's even more emotion on Saturday with it being senior day?
Yeah, it has been. Last February we talked about that being sort of the thought process that we had to go a little bit farther. We ended up number 5 in the nation last year, 11-2, but we didn't win the championship. We didn't win the East. You can't go anywhere if you don't win the East. So that was first and foremost, and we had to beat Ohio State to do that. We felt like we needed to beat Oregon early in the year to be able to sort of move the ball forward. And we've beaten some good football teams this year. So that's been the idea of that, and just we needed to be mentally tough. We needed to be more mentally tough actually than physically, and so that 4-1 it took real became an effective sort of way to communicate to our players as well.
Mark, I listened to your press conference. We carried it here on BTN. The two Penn State guys you mentioned by name, Christian Hackenberg, Saquon Barkley. If I forced you to choose between one of the two and said you can only take one guy out of the game, make one of those guys a non-factor, who would it be and why?
Oh, I can't tell you that. You know that. I'm not going there. That's your job.
Yeah, but I had to try, Mark. I had to ask.
We don't need one of those guys to feel poorly. They're both outstanding players, and I think Anthony Zettel is an outstanding player too, right here from the state of Michigan. So, I mean, he makes it work. Very tough player on the defensive front, and we've got our work cut out for us.
Hey, Mark, Dave Wannstedt here. I'm not going to ask you a game plan question or put you on the spot like Rick here tries to. Let me, having been where you were at this past weekend, remarkable job, great win. You get your best player who's not going to play in the game. So and your team knows that other positions are going to have to rise up to a level that they haven't played at all year. If you were to talk about one position and compliment one position that not surprised you but excited you at the level of play that they put on the field on Saturday, what position would that be?
That's a good question. There's a lot of guys had their best football. I think we've been playing well up front defensively, but we got all our guys back on the offensive line, and I thought our running backs played very well. If you look at our running backs, we ran the ball effectively against a good defense. So that was something that we knew we had to do. But both sides of the line, we went into the game and said we had to win up front. Yeah. We went into the game and said if we don't win up front, we're not winning this football game. So that was a challenge sort of laid down. And last year in the game, I don't think we won up front on the defensive side of the ball. And this was a different game, so we were able to bring that to the table.
Coach, speaking of staying up front and speaking of the offense and the defensive line, I thought both coaches have done a tremendous job, have faced adversity in many different ways, whether it's on the defensive side, maybe not playing up to the ability, or maybe on the offense with the injuries. Can you talk a little bit about the job that both of those coaches have done of getting these guys ready to play?
Yeah, all of our coaches have done an outstanding job with their players. They have meaningful relationships with their guys that go beyond just football. And I think they get the most out of our guys. I think it's very important that regardless of what your ability level is, that you overachieve. And we talk about that a lot. And that comes from relationships and a bonding with each other. But, I think Harlan Barnett and Mike Tressel, this is their first year being the coordinator, the co-coordinators. Harlan's calling the game. So you see growth as a play caller over the course of the season. That's a natural progression. You get used to it, there's not as much anxiety, and it becomes a little bit more second nature. On the offensive side of the ball, Dave Warner and Jim Bowman work very cohesively together. Dave's done an outstanding job with that. He calls the plays with the direction from all the assistant coaches. I really think Brad Salem has done a tremendous job as well with our quarterbacks. Mark Staten's been talked about before. We have great coaches here. There's no question that one of the reasons that we've won here is because of the coaching and the continuity that's going on with our assistant coaches and our players' relationships. So that's been a big plus for us. But really can't speak to much more than the dynamics of that. I just think this is a people-driven business, and it's about relationships. And usually when you have people that are getting along well together, they form an energy, and things sort of move forward.
Last one for you, Mark. New rankings released tonight. Should you beat Penn State and then beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, does it matter what happens in other leagues? How strongly would you feel at that point that your team is a lock for the playoff?
I'm just focusing on the moment, guys. I mean, really, if we win, things take care of itself. Things will always be better if you win. And I don't care where we go, what bowl game, but things are going to be better. If we lose, things go out the door. So we're going to concentrate on what we can affect, and that's this football game, and that's getting our football team ready and energized to play.
Mark Dantonio, head coach of the Michigan State Spartans. Mark, as always, appreciate the time. I'll be headed to East Lansing for the game this weekend, so I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
All right, guys. Thanks for having us on, as always, and go green.